Welcome back to the garden, and today I'm going to be showing you how I built my Pallet compost base system. Welcome back to the garden, and today we're making some compost bays out of pallets. And that's because pallets are generally quite easy to access. You can often get them for free, if not very cheap. But there are a couple of things to look out for if you are going to create your compost bays out of pallets. The first thing is you really want them to be quite sturdy. You can often get the ones that are quite flimsy. They won't last very long. You could use those, but you may have to replace them after the first year or two. So look for something quite robust, and don't get the ones covered in paint. So you often see them in the bright blue or the bright red. Don't opt for those ones because that will leach into your compost and you don't want that. And another thing to really look out for is this stamp here. So this stamp, the main thing you're looking for is this section, and this has a HT, which means heat treated. The other one that you may find on a stamp like this is MB, which is methyl bromide, and you definitely don't want to use pallets that have been treated in methyl bromide in a garden, because it's a really harsh pesticide that will leach into your compost, into your garden, and you just definitely don't want that. So make sure that they're heat treated. And as I said, try and get robust ones. It depends what you can access. But these ones, ideally I would have gone for 1 meter square, but I couldn't find them. So I've gone for 80 by 120. So these will do just fine. Make some nice big compost bays. And we basically have cleared this area because right to where you are at the camera was essentially just overgrown brush. There was ivy and huge branches, and yeah, it was a complete mess. So we've cleared this area, and there's still a little bit of debris, but next we're going to just level this section out because it's quite undulating. It's not too bad, but we're just going to level this section here and then build the actual bays. So when it comes to fixing these together, you have a few options really. You could just tie them together, and I've done that before with other compost bays. You could tie them together. It just means you can remove certain sections and move them around and get your compost out. And if you have pallets in between as dividers, you can move those away. So it's a nice, easy option. I've decided to screw these together so they're a bit more permanent because these are quite robust. But sometimes you are limited with points in which you can screw into, because these are the same kind of pallet. They marry up to, I mean, you wouldn't want to put a screw through that big, you'd never get them that size. So what we've basically done is just add a couple of blocks here and screwed those in just to raise the level of that piece of wood. So then we could screw in from this other side through the back there. So put a couple of screws in there, a couple of screws in at the back, and we've got 2 in, and that's really held it together. And then we'll clamp those together and then just find points in which we can screw these together too. And then I'll add another pallet in here as a divider. I struggled to find points to screw into when I was fixing the pallets together side by side, so I just used offcuts of wood, and then I screwed them to the back of the pallets to fix them together. And then I just did the same for the dividing pallets too. So that's more or less the main structure built. As you can see, we have the 3 bays set up now, and these central sections in, so they're nice and sturdy. Only one thing that I may do is add some battens in here just to fill that out so that the compost doesn't fall through. And I may just get another couple of pallets and strip them down and then add those sections in, but you don't have to, it'd be fine as is. You can add like cardboard boxes in to retain the compost and stop it from falling. Obviously it will decompose over time, but I'll add cardboard to the ground here because once you start adding compost and material to make the compost, it'll keep it mulched. But in the interim, I add some cardboard down to each section just to stop the weed growth coming through. So I'm using packaging cardboard as my cardboard layer, and it's nice because you can buy this in a large roll and you can choose the width as well. So with this one, this is a meter roll which fits perfectly in between the bays. I also use this kind of cardboard to create my no-dig beds, because I can roll it out and create my growing bed straight on top of it as well. So it's really, really useful, and it doesn't have any kind of pesticides or inks or staples or anything like that to remove, which cardboard boxes often do. You can use cardboard boxes if that's all you have access to, and they're generally free, so it's a good option too, but I like to use this. The only thing it has is a little bit of starch-based glue just to hold the corrugation in there, but that's it really. So I roll this out and I literally just pop it in like this. And you can see that it's more or less the exact width. And then just add the fronts. So with these, you could just tie them on around this section here, and then you can just untie it, remove the front, get your compost out, and you're good to go. I think with these, because they're quite robust, I'm going to put a few screws in just to hold it in place. I'll remove the screws when I want to take the compost out and just move these away, and then just screw them back on afterwards. And that's the structure more or less built. You could just use it as is and it'd be good to go. The only thing to consider is if you have a roof or not, or some kind of cover. So you could just use a tarp or something like that. You'd maybe want a central support in the middle, but you could just use a tarp, put a tarp on top of it. And the reason you might want to do that is because, particularly here in the UK, we get a lot of rain. So you want to be able to regulate the amount of water that's going in your compost. Obviously you do want water in your compost and moisture in there, but you don't want too much, and we get a lot of rain here. So I like to cover it, and then I can regulate how much water goes in there. I can put some water in if it needs more water, and I can make sure no more water goes in if it doesn't need water, just so it gets up to temperature and creates that compost for the garden as quick as possible. So after a bit of thought, I decided to create quite a robust structure for the roof so that I could also save water from it. The weather was terrible though whilst we were trying to build it, so filming was a bit of a struggle. But we used standard 2x2 to create much of the structure, and we cut the uprights at an angle to create kind of a pent roof, and then fastened them to the solid corners of each of the pallets. We then added some more 2x2s as cross members to support the roof with an overhang either side, and then just repeated the process in each corner of each pallet. So we created 4 supports in total. We then just screwed in a piece of 2x1 to the front of the supports to stabilise them, and added a piece of 4x1 rough sawn timber to the back to support a gutter.
I don't think today's the day to be doing any roofing.
Once the wind had finally calmed down, we added some galvanised roofing sheets and attached them to the frame using roofing screws that seal with a rubber washer. And we just ensured that the sheets overlapped to avoid any leaking. So that's the compost bays finished, and you can see that we now have a roof. So we've decided to go for these galvanised roofing sheets, and I think they just look really nice, as well as being obviously functional. So it's much better to reduce the amount of plastic that we use in the garden if you can. They're a little bit more expensive. Sometimes you can get these for free if you look on Marketplace and places like that. But yeah, I think overall, including all of the support and the sheeting, it was around £250. But that's not too bad considering we built the entire structure for that. If you look online and you buy a 3-bay system like this with a roof, you're talking thousands. I looked. So we decided to make our own. And I think even though we've used pallets, it looks pretty good. So we've created a pent roof, and all we did was cut some 2x2 as the supports. Obviously we cut them at an angle, so the roof is essentially a pent roof. And then we just created this really simple support structure just to hold the sheeting on, and then we just drilled it from the other side. And obviously because it's pent, we've put a gutter on the other side. I forgot what the word was then. A gutter on the other side so we can save water, because we're off grid here, so we need to save water from everything. So we're actually saving water from the garage, saving water from the greenhouse over there, even the polytunnel, and also the compost bay system. So we'll have a little IBC tank at one side, and that'll catch all of the water for us. So it's stopping water coming into the actual compost bays, so we can kind of regulate how much water goes in there, but it's also catching water for us too. So yeah, I'm really happy with how it looks, and I hope you found the whole video useful. So I'll see you in the next video, and please subscribe if you enjoyed it. Press that little notification button so you get notified when we post more videos, and give me a like if you found it useful. Thanks for watching.